Let's see. Hello, folks. Yeah, this thing froze up for a moment on the countdown to, like, 5, 4, 3. It's a new one for me. It had been a rough night for General Weigel. His comrades had made his command post in the prison for a time, but then that rampaging red monster and the superhuman woman, apparently on the same team somehow, both got far from the prison. Weigel got in his staff car with the prison secured and the prison was finally completely secured after both threats abandoned it. But still the threat of a few prisoners. Some prisoners had escaped a second time in the midst of all the carnage in and around the prison, but they were rounded up. Like almost in a position to be taken captive by one of them, but he was grabbed by some guards just before Weigel was within reach. He and the other escapees were liquidated on Weigel's order. It was all down in writing. But Weigel imagined if he found himself in a position like the Bloodkins at the end of the last war, he could burn those papers and get rid of anybody who might testify against him. Weigel would draw the line at Asvel Mech and her people. She wouldn't betray him. If anything, she'd take credit for any crimes that he was blamed for. She would go to her death for him if she hadn't already. He was out of contact with her and with most people after leaving the prison. Weigel put his people in charge. Put his subordinates in charge of dealing with all the problems through the city while he relocated to a new CP at the hotel at his hotel HQ. Was Weigel targeted in that hotel? There was an assassination mission earlier. Weigel's staff car was armored with an armored top that could still be retracted, like one of those fabric top on a less armored staff car, like the ones Bloodkins liked in the last war. The staff car, Weigel heard of nicer, even more armored staff cars in use in some parts of Europe that could allegedly survive an RPG hit with just a little scratch right to the body. Weigel didn't believe that. There were many armored cars that couldn't survive an RPG hit, and how tough are Jade armored vehicles? RPG resist. So I'll have to check. Can they resist an RPG? Role-playing. That's not role-playing game. That's rocket-propelled grenade. Have I ever talked about role-playing games in any book or story I've ever done? Probably not. Not even in the one set in modern times. No, RPGs do exist in my universe. It's just they're like, you know, no reason to talk about them. I wonder how popular they are in America. Final Fantasy sells pretty good, and a lot of people love those series. Legend of Zelda isn't an RPG because there's no leveling up or anything. I think you just get better equipment and such. Maybe the latest ones have RPGs. I don't know. RPG elements. I don't mind RPG elements in anything. It's kind of nice to have a little progress, you know? To see, like, signs of progress and whatnot. I mean, armored cars. And all of them. Why didn't it correct that? Probably because I had all somewhere. All is like an Arabian word almost. Like, you know, like you see it in some names. But usually there's like a hyphen or something there. So you know, folks, Turkey isn't a desert. It's mountainous, green, kind of like Greece. Very mountainous. It's funny that mountain nations seem to breed the most interesting people, like Greece, Romania, Turkey, those Caucasus countries that used to be part of the Soviet Union, that got all the oil now. Couldn't survive an RPG hit in all of them. And all of them were more armored than any staff car. Would it still look like a staff car if you put more and more armor to it? Weigel's staff cars still look like part. Having a fine silver gray paint job, well polished by Weigel's subordinates. Weigel drove with a team of bodyguards, including the driver. All were pretty well armed, and Weigel himself carried 2 pistols on him. There was a time earlier in the war when he carried a hand grenade as well to kill himself to avoid capture. Weigel heard of some botched suicides with pistols, and he didn't want that end up like that. He took him out. He never heard of a grenade pressed under the chin failing to kill someone. Yeah, humans aren't that hardy, I guess. Can a human survive a grenade going off under him? I don't know. Possibly. Usually, but I think most of the time they're just killed on the spot. I mean, if a grenade goes off against you, you're pretty much blown to bits, pretty much. It'd probably be about as improbable to survive that as someone surviving wearing a suicide vest, you know? I've never heard of someone surviving a suicide bomber surviving a suicide vest. Don't they usually end up vaporized? I don't know. Lyle didn't feel particularly safe in the staff car as it was speeding around Liverpool. Lyle knew he had to go around. They stay in a place the whole battle. I don't know. I might have implied that earlier and derped up then. Knew he had to go around the city to see what was going on. There were various uprisings that looked like something out of Weigel's car. Do I need to say staff car still? Did I mention his staff car earlier? I described it as differently. This is the kind of staff car I imagine Himmler, the SS, rode around in. There's a bit of Himmler in a lot of these people, these characters. Weigel's car had fully functioning command radio in it, so he could keep in contact with his superiors, with his subordinates, and his superiors. Weigel was reporting regularly to Jade Army Central Security HQ in Europe, which handled all matters of occupational security, including preparations for repelling enemy invasions on the continent. This was the organization that the Jade Vampire was gradually taking over, bit by bit. And when he had complete control, he'd be, in essence, dictator of Europe. Yeah. And people don't know about World War II. There were kind of like a lot of little Nazi dictators all over Europe, besides Hitler. Like, you know, they had their own little kingdoms, occupying, ruling over Poland, Czechoslovakia, Norway, Hungary. I wonder what the article on the history of Czechoslovakia during World War II is. I mean, it can't just say, oh, they were annexed and that was it for them until 1945 when they were liberated. Probably stuff in there about the occupation. Just like Austria, I mean. Austria was annexed. Technically, it didn't exist as a state for years, till after World War II, when it was divided up between the Allies and the Russians. For some reason, the Russians eventually pulled out of Austria. I wouldn't have done that if I was Stalin. Stalin was so ruthless that it's kind of weird that he would give up territory anywhere. He even wanted a sliver of Japan after World War II, but the Allies wouldn't give it to him because, you know, he only declared war on them a month before the end of the war. Maybe if he had declared war earlier, he would have gotten a bigger piece of the pie in Japan. He ended up getting control over Manchuria, and, you know, that handed over to the Communist Chinese. They won the Civil War. North Korea came to be. You know, he did pretty good in Asia. He also got some disputed territory that the Russians lost in the Japanese-Russian War. That was a big humiliation for Russia back then. It was such a humiliation they were still angry about, even though they were communists. And by the time of World War II, when the Tsar wasn't around, and you know, Russians seem like the kind of people who would have a grudge for a while. You know what I mean, folks? Let's see. Various uprisings that look like something out of the last war. There were guerrillas up on many rooftops spraying the ground level with automatic fire, and occasionally tossing petrol bombs and petroc bombs. Molotov cocktails. They're called in the rest of the real world. Dates back to the Winter War between Finland and Russia, where the Russians said they were bombing. They weren't bombing Finns; they were dropping aid. Yeah, and they called them Molotov cocktails as a result. Molotov was one of Stalin's lackeys. Strangely, he was one of the few that wasn't purged and executed. I'm not sure why. I guess Stalin figured he had to have a few people that he didn't put in, lackeys that he didn't put in jail or put on trial. Let's see, automatic fire occasionally tossing down to the, as well. They seemed short on grenades, but RPGs had taken out plenty of patrols. I wondered if they were saving the grenades for fighting down on the street. I spied a few of these battles. It seemed to end shortly after he arrived, as though his mere presence somehow made the guerrillas more susceptible to small arms fire. Made his men more accurate. There were plenty of crack shots. Is crap shots good? I thought some slang it means good. Crap shot. I've always used it as crap shot, meaning you're a bad shot, but maybe in the military it's different. I try to avoid confusion. It's kind of hard to do when you have like a whole fictional universe. You can't just say China. People know what China is, you know? They know it's a big populated country, but you have to explain it if you call it like Wu, like I do in this story. Wu is what my parrot says to me sometimes, because they didn't know, because my grandma tried to get him to whistle, but she didn't know how to whistle, so she said woo instead, and the bird just picked that up, like whoop. Woo is just what it says. It's like I don't know. Woo means a lot of things when the parrot says it, like they're confused by something, they're intrigued. I don't know. It's like the parrots have their own language. Parrots are strange creatures. There are plenty of crack shots among in the Liverpool garrison. Pool garrison. Is that capitalized garrison? Once they got in position, they started hitting the guerrillas up high, and they'd eventually retreat when they realized why snipers were after them. Michael saw a few of the guerrillas fall dramatically from up high. A few of the buildings from up high after being hit. Some of the buildings were being enemy occupied buildings were being torched by flamethrower vehicles. The enemy liked to drop fire on Leigel's men. He wanted to see how they liked it. Wagner heard about the failed attempt to capture. The attempt to capture some of the underground leadership, thanks to a mole within the organization. He only told them about an HQ, not about their main HQ, what was still their main HQ and base, which nobody could locate. Its capture and destruction would be top priority after the uprising was over. Wagner the mole didn't escape and got himself killed. Killed inside the HQ. And then the enemy inside attacked. No. Just realized, oh, no, that's fine. Forgot that he took his pills. Once the session's over, I'll go and turn the heater off. We're 14th day of April, folks. Let's see. Yeah, I heard Game of Thrones has new season coming on, but I'm not. I'm not the kind of guy who needs to see every show immediately when they come on. I'm not worried too much about spoilers either, because, you know, there's only so many different ways that story can end. Though they surprised me, I'll be happy. I like being surprised. I like it when something happens and it's not like what I expected, you know. The enemy inside attacked. They triggered some bombs in the street and killed about 100 men. Killed about 60 men. And many more men had been killed at the perimeter. What was supposed to be a bloodless capture had become anything but. Like everything else that happened tonight, things went as bad as possible for their side. For the side of the Jade Army. Wagner vehicle, staff car, arrived at the perimeter, about 10 meters back from the nearest carnage. Wagner got out, had his binoculars to spy the situation. His bodyguards all got out first and formed something of a circle around him. SMGs and rifles ready. Most of them had E1 SMGs in 10mm. Wagner went to talk to the ranking officer, lieutenant, a young and handsome captain named Wagner. That sounds a lot more closer to Jade name. I think I have it so I don't use L's as much. Well, besides Wagner's name. Wagner. He was someone that Wagner had recently promoted and awarded a medal for anti-operation. Sir, Wagner said, and saluted Wagner, who nodded. What's going on? Wagner asked in a huff. It always freezes up on that stupid lookup icon. In a bad mood. Okay, folks, let's sign off here. Have a nice day.